on the clock, so I'll call the meeting to order. Pat, meeting notice verification? Okay. Bob Menard, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Certainly would. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Tom, would you like to give us our mission statement tonight?
Serve with passion to ignite creativity, innovation, and excellence.
Thank you. For roll call, we've got 5 of our 7 board members. We have 2 excused tonight. And Ryan, your team looks accounted for.
Yep, my team is here this evening.
All right, sounds good. Let's move on. I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have an agenda. We'll go to reports. Item A being the district strategic initiatives update by the superintendent collaborative team, management team, and superintendent. Board, do we have questions on those reports? Anything that we want to add? Or Ryan, would you like to add some color on that?
I guess just an update. We've had a couple of meetings here in the last 2.5 weeks with ISG over our approved capital referendum question that we had. We'll be having some discussion during a board engagement session here after the meeting to talk about engagement groups through the community and roles that we would like people to play to be involved in this process. Last Tuesday, I attended the village board meeting. Chief Allo and I talked about the traffic here at the Hamlin-Leonard intersection and how it's for our pedestrian traffic and just traffic in general in the morning, how dangerous that intersection is. And through the work of Chief Allo doing some study there, through the traffic study that we had conducted here a year ago, the village will be putting a 4-way stop in there very soon. There'll also be a, we were calling them flashy lights, but the flashy pedestrian crossing lights there as well. Obviously, that intersection in itself deters a lot of traffic going in different ways because of those 2 stop signs. So I want to thank the village and their cooperation and Chief Allo and our cooperation with them to improve the safety of that intersection, which should help the flow of the traffic around the area and around campus, both before school and after school.
Thanks for pursuing that. That'll be a good change. Board, any other questions or comments before we move on? Okay, if not, we can go to item B, Business Operations Committee update. Tom?
Okay, so I believe we met last week. We talked about capital improvement project, which is obviously the referendum that passed and how we're going to manage it, what we're going to do. We're still talking about all that. The district post-employee benefits liability we went over with Sean. I don't remember a lot about that. And then the saltwater pool transition and options. We're still looking into cost justification behind it. And whether it's positive or negative, we quite don't know yet. And that's really about it.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Board, do we have questions for Tom? All right, if not, we'll move on. I've got the CISA Board of Control update. We met last Monday, December 2nd at CISA 4. We approved vouchers and financial statements for November. For new business, we approved our 2024-2025 budget, and that also included recommended price increases for daily rate to increase 3% for 25-26. We also approved a vehicle trade-in with a new purchase Some of the itinerant staff has vehicles assigned for the mileage that they travel for the districts. And one of those vehicles was getting up there in mileage and needed to be turned in. And then we also talked about a plan for evaluating our agency administrator in January. We will meet next Wednesday, January 8th, 6:30 at CISA 4. Any questions? All right.
Before we move on, I think that it's important for the board to know as well. I should have brought this up in our report, but obviously last Tuesday, a water main did break out here on Hamlin, which caused a little bit of disruption to the high school day after the high school students had left. But I want to thank my team, especially Scott and Rick and Justin specifically, because it did affect the high school. What we had decided in having a conversation with Rick Klein was that he was able to provide transportation home to our high school students where it wouldn't disrupt the day of our elementary and middle school kids. So that's why we elected to we early released our high school and kept the middle school and elementary school here all day. I think it's also important to share our appreciation and thanks to Lauren Schweer, who was very flexible in that whole situation. Obviously, when Scott reported to work here on Tuesday morning at 5:30, there was a river flowing down Hamlin, and he got the privilege to call Lauren to let Lauren know. But through all of that and getting people here to work, they essentially allowed us to complete the day here, a half a day here of school, so we wouldn't have to obviously close down the whole day, especially when when we found out that was going and buses were already out, and it would have created quite the issue there. So obviously having that partnership with the village and being able to have that flexibility to flex our day and our schedule and not have it interrupt the middle school and the elementary school was pretty key. So thanks to Lauren Schweer and the village road department for allowing us to do that.
Thanks, Ryan. Anything else before we move on?
Can I ask a question on, Ryan, what you talked about? This water main issue keeps on happening about every 3 years. At what point is this gonna get fixed so we don't keep on having these issues?
Thankfully, that's a decision that I don't have to make. I do know that this is the second water main break along Hamlin here in the last 2 weeks, and they do have from conversations, I know they have been keeping track of that, and they're working on what flexibility they do have to replacing the whole thing. Now, obviously, the soil underneath the road is clay, and so it expands and contracts pretty easily, and so that's what's causing that to happen. I know they did look to put a valve in where they could just shut it off where it wouldn't affect our school and it would just continue going, but they weren't able to put a valve in. But I know that is something that the village has come up in conversation.
So just for clarification, Eric, do you remember back when we were in high school, this thing would always break? It's been doing that ever since. And from my understanding, it was buried too shallow. Okay.
Again, I don't know.
I can't speak to that. I know my brother used to work for the water department here, and they repaired it a couple times, or multiple times while he was here.
I think we should put that on a list to make sure that we follow through with the village to see if we can't have a final remedy to all this.
We've talked about that. It's kind of like, in the spirit of the holidays, Clark, it's the Jelly of the Month Club. It's the gift that keeps on giving all year long.
We've been doing that for years. We've been talking to them and asking them to stay up to date with it and when they're gonna get it done and blah, blah, but I think we should make it a priority due to the disruption it's causing.
All right, we're going to move on to connection with the community and our board reports by high school student rep. Jessa?
Last Thursday, the wrestling team competed in a quad against lacrosse in Toma, winning against both teams. This weekend, they will wrestle in a duel at Holman on Thursday and a tournament in Eau Claire on Saturday. The National Honor Society is currently hosting the annual Giving Tree. Students, staff, and families can select a tag off of the Christmas tree located in the high school library, and buy a gift card for that store in amount. All gift cards collected will go to families in need. Last week, the boys hockey team lost to Antigo in the Toma Sparta Co-op team. They will play in Black River Falls tomorrow night, and on Thursday they will play Aquinas at the Omni Center. This past weekend, the dance team had their first competition of the season in Ashwaubenon, at which all 3 of the soloists place. The team is hosting a showcase at the middle school on Thursday night where they will perform all team and solo routines, in addition to Kid Camp performances with elementary students. The girls' basketball team beat Onalaska, Viroqua, and Hudson this past week. They will play in Black River Falls tomorrow night and play Arcadia on Friday. Last night was the annual holiday concert for the high school choir. Both the mixed choir and concert choir performed, along with performances by both of the show choir teams. The gymnastics team has their first meet of the season on Thursday night. It will be at our very own Panther Den, hosting Holman and Wisconsin Rapids. The boys' basketball team is currently 3-0 on their season. They most recently took down New Richmond, winning 87-79 on Saturday. Tomorrow night they will take on Holman at home. The winter season is off to a great start, and we are excited to watch it continue.
Thanks, Jessa. Board, do we have any questions for Jessa? All right, we appreciate you keeping us up to date. Next up is correspondence, and we have one item in our folder tonight. It's a proclamation by Jill Underly, the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, declaring the week of December 9th through the 15th, 2024 as Computer Science Education Week. And next up is public comment at board meetings per board policy 167.3. Pat, do we have anyone? Negative. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. That includes minutes of the regular board meeting of November 25th, 2024, invoices to be paid, and co-curricular recommendations for high school advisors, volunteer high school basketball, and gymnastics coaches. Do we have questions on the consent agenda, or would someone like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, consent agenda is approved. We'll move on to discuss, consider, and take action if appropriate regarding strategic initiatives. Item A is high school course offerings.
'Tis the season for new course proposals at the high school for the 25-26 school year. I know Mr. Yang has put together, those new course proposals, and they are in your packet. I don't know, Justin, if you want to share anything with that, or if the board has any questions.
Yeah, I'd welcome any questions that you guys had.
So these are all new offerings?
That's correct.
If you could, for my education, can you kind of walk through the process of how it goes from an idea to a new course offering that's in front of us tonight?
You bet. So those new course proposals are turned into Alyssa Harlan, our curriculum director, and Alyssa and I then met and reviewed each of those proposals. Proposal looks at the obviously the piece that you're seeing here, but also what sort of standards, learning targets that the course is going to meet, as well as why there's a need for this course. So the idea of is it replacing something else? None of these are replacing something else. They're all in addition to our current programming. I just highlight the computer science offerings that are listed in there. Ellie Shulo has done a tremendous job in building up our computer science program, and in both of those cases, those are upper level courses within our computer science offerings. Those proposals would be the AP computer science is basically like a fifth level of programming, and the web programming is taking web design to the next level. The items on the second page, the child development and the introduction to educational practices, those are courses that we've offered something similar to in the past. These are articulated with Western Technical College for dual credit offerings, and we met with Western about the possibility of they had a bigger assortment of offerings that they were looking to have us sign up for. These, I think, fit the interests that we see from our students currently in the building, and again, are taking our programming to the next level in those sorts of offerings. There's no instructor listed on those. I just highlight that the way those courses are provided through Western, all the instructor needs to have is a degree in education. So we do have, 2 or 3 teachers at the high school, I think, that would be interested in teaching those, and that ultimately would come down to the course assignments based on other courses selected during the registration process. Alyssa, do you have anything you want to add on that?
I'll just add that on the computer science offerings, the web programming would also be a dual credit piece. So looking at all of these are adding something above and beyond. So dual credit for the computer science and the 2 family and consumer science, the AP class. And then the Mural Academy is something that Quentin Brown has requests for and just doesn't have a place to fit that. There are things within our district and in the community where people are looking to have our students do murals. He has students who would do a great job with that, and this would create an opportunity to have them do some of that work through a accredited course as well. So all of these, I thought, were a nice addition to programming that we already have, but offering some additional enhancements.
Okay, thanks, Alyssa and Justin. Where do we have other questions?
Alyssa, I guess this is going to be for you. On the programming end of things, where you got web programming and computer science, what made you decide to use Bootstrap, JavaScript, and Java? And we have HTML and CSS. Are we planning on any SQL?
Or Python. Actually, I had a
Yeah,
follow-up. Python. Python's a really
the
big
huge
one in
one.
the industry.
So why did we jump to something that's 25 years old and we're starting to see better programming applications come out? Just curious.
Yeah, that's a good question. The web programming is a dual credit course, so Western does set what that programming is and what that piece is. So that's a piece that if we want to do the dual credit, it would go through that Western piece. I think Allie would certainly be able to be flexible and do the pieces that we want to, but through the dual credit piece, the programming that Western has is what's listed there. And then as far as the computer science A, those are the pieces that are required of that AP exam.
And then one thing I guess I would ask, I think a really, really major piece of this is SQL.
Okay.
If you can chat or do that, I mean, that's in so many programming languages that is the back end to everything.
Correct.
That holds your data and everything. And that's a huge, huge, huge piece.
Yeah, I would echo that. Java, Oracle, that data stack's been dead for about 10 years for programming. So SQL would be one that I think it would be a good focus. And since I'm in the industry, where everything has been going is through Python. So I think those would be the ones that if we're trying to make our skill set relevant for our students, then Java and Bootstrap would not be where I would think we need to be. But SQL and then Python.
Okay. We'd have to look into that. Allie is more of an expert than I am, certainly. And then we'd have to look at if that could be a match with Western or if that's something that we offer then separately.
Yeah, because one thing I notice is, when Western, they got things set up, and I notice our colleges around here tend to have like the older frameworks because that's what they started with, and they don't change it. And times are changing where all that is changing, and so they may just be holding on to an old hat that, I'll be honest, is not doing the kids any good. And when I hire programmers, not really.
That's not what they're looking for.
And SQL is a have to if I do hire a programmer.
All of our programmers where I work have SQL background, C++, and then everybody has to learn Python.
Okay, that would be something I'd have to go back to Ally on. Thanks.
What other questions do we have? I mean, do we want to approve what's presented here? I think so. I hear your concerns about the computer science, but I'm in that field too, and I think at the heart of it is getting kids' brains to think in a way that will allow them to learn those additional programming languages that you mentioned. Okay, that's one opinion. Okay.
I would just point out the excitement, you don't know that, the excitement that Ms. Shulo had for the proclamation of computer science in our schools that you read about earlier. And I assure you, she's not trying to shortchange our students, so.
We don't think she is by any stretch of the imagination, and we think computer science is highly relevant to our students. We're just kind of trying to point different curriculum that will probably be more relevant based on Tom and mine's experience. So,
Yeah, it's a huge plus. Don't get us wrong. We love this. I mean, that's just a feather in our cap. Sort of like the automotive building back there. We could expand on this more than what we're seeing here. It would be awesome, and I'd be all for it.
Sounds good. I would echo that Ally will be all about doing everything she can to be current and support our kids. Yeah, that's why she wanted to pursue both of these for those students that she was seeing top out now that she's able to offer 4 courses in programming. So yeah, I think she'd be all about that.
so I know, depending on the background, my company offers paid internships for different people going into computer science, right? So even in high school, if they have the background, it's a paid internship, which is not it's a good compensation. Let me put it that way.
I'll make a motion to approve the course proposals as prepared for the 25-26 school year.
I'll second.
All right. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Eric. I have a motion and a second to approve as presented. Is there any additional discussion before we take a vote? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, those are approved, and we'll move on to item B, which is construction manager for building project.
In your packet, attachment I, it goes through a proposal from Kraus Anderson for construction management services as we look to begin our project. Obviously, the concept of hiring a construction manager has been discussed with the last 2 meetings that we had. The first initial kickoff meeting, which Catherine was there with Scott and myself through with ISG, and then it got brought up again last Monday at our business op meeting with the business operations team, following our procedure with that to bring that there prior to bringing it to the board and having that conversation. The proposal for the hire is in your packet. And I guess, just from our business op meeting, it was to bring it here to have a discussion on it, and I will turn it over to the board to have any further discussion.
Was the Biz Ops Committee in favor of doing this? Or
Yeah, it was a lot of back and forth, and at other meetings, I've expressed concerns with regard to the bidding process and how much input we have on that and our desire to keep it as local as possible. We asked those questions of Kraus Anderson, and I was happy with the response. And if you read through this, I don't recall exactly where, but during the bid process, there is significant input from the board on what we're looking for and in areas that are important for us. We also talked about the need for a construction manager, and it seemed pretty evident to me during that time that that we needed one. And then we did get into, did look at some information on the fee, and they were able to provide what their fee was for the last couple. I think there was 5 different school districts, and their current fee is dead on what it's been. So it seems to be reasonable fee.
Is it the same fee structure for other contract managers or bid managers, or is it higher or lower? Or?
They did, you recall? I think they had, it was 5 different school districts. They weren't the construction manager on all of them. 4 out of the 5, I think, were at the 2% as this is, and 1 was at 1.75. So 4 out of the 5 were the exact same fee as this.
The one that was at 1.75 was I believe it was like an $18 million project.
Yes.
So it was, $10 million less than our project. And generally, from the evidence that I saw that was provided, was that percentage fluctuates with the overall dollar amount.
And the Biz Ops Committee felt like we were going to get a good value based on the proposal.
Yeah, I guess I don't know that I want to speak to that, so I'll let somebody else speak to the answer, but I was just going to mention that we spent quite a bit of time talking about the difference between a general contractor and a construction manager, making sure that we understood what the advantages were for the board or the district having a construction manager overseeing the project, giving us insight into all of the subcontractor bids. And so we'd have transparency right down to the subcontractor level with the construction manager versus, and that construction manager be an agent of the owner versus a general contractor who's trying to get the job and hit the bid amount. So that's, I guess, what I wanted to add to the conversation. I don't recall conversations about if we had a competing bid other than Kraus or.
Oh, that wasn't what I was asking. I was just, did you discuss like the pros and cons of, it sounds like you had.
Yeah, we did at length, actually. Yep.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, we didn't discuss particular firms. We discussed overall concepts. To have just Kraus Anderson in here, I'll be honest, is a little bit of a surprise because typically we'd want to see 3 to 5 general management bids and what their scope is, which this seems to be a good start. There's a few tweaks that I think we should still make and we should probably talk about at a business ops meeting. And then take a look at have we had any other submittals for a GM?
We haven't gone out to RFP because when we went through the interview process back in January, part of that was, this was in there with it. And I think now's the time where the board makes a decision. And I think the overall question is obviously this construction manager is the one that works most closely with the firm, the architectural firm that we selected. And if the board would want to go out for an RFP for construction manager, then that's something that we would end up doing, and then bring back those things. But I think the reason why Kraus is here with this is because when we interviewed last January, they were associated with the firm and they were here that day that we interviewed them.
I'd like to bring this back in front of a business ops meeting, discuss this further, and then bring back a recommendation to the board at the next meeting. What do you, Eric, Sean?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Trying to remember, what is our obligation as far as competitively bidding once we select our
Well, that's what we,
path forward, you know what I mean?
that's what
So
we
it's-
put together.
Right.
Yep.
So if we're looking to talk about GM for the project, we're gonna stipulate what we want, how we wanna see it, how it's gonna run. Now, granted, that'd give us maybe 2 weeks if anybody else might be interested. Whether we call a few firms or whatever, but have something come back and see the pricing on it. I don't wanna just jump into a single envelope here without checking our bases.
So you're not
I-
considering rediscussing construction manager versus general contractor, more discussing the definition of the role of defining the role of the construction manager.
We want the construction
Yeah,
manager.
yeah, okay.
We all
I just wanna
agreed
make sure we're on the
that.
same
We
page.
just ain't agreed on a firm or the specifics yet. And to me, I'm not voting on any of this tonight because we haven't done that aspect of it. And then the other thing too is, I don't know if that's fully legal.
I do have, I have a question. So they were bidding to be the agent for us, and so, and that's supposed to be helping us as a indirect fiduciary, right, to the community. Do they provide any information of cost savings that they brought as being a part of the general contractor for, I mean, the general manager? I mean, those are things that I'm thinking, if you're gonna be our agent, please tell me how you've helped other districts save money in this whole process. If you're just coming in here to say you're gonna be, hey, somebody, a third party, that's great. I can have my mom be a third party, but I need to know if you're gonna save us money as a district.
So I'm hearing the thought is that we hold on this, understanding that that is going to impact our timeline. So I guess I would ask if
It's not.
you want to make a
impacting
motion to
our
do
timeline.
that we have a biz ops committee meeting shortly.
Yes, preferably.
Okay, as of right now, I don't have a motion on the table. Based on how this is written in here, do we need that? Or can we just decide to not take action?
Just don't take action on it.
What we do, Pat?
Yep.
Yep.
You got told.
Been
Got it.
served.
Thank you.
Talk about the scheduling of that meeting now, or is that something we do offline afterwards, or we should get that set?
It's on the agenda and we have the time, let's just do it. When can we meet?
Between the business app group, is this something we want to do before break?
Yes.
Oh, God, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm just asking a rhetorical question. That means between now and next Friday.
Correct.
Yeah. I can do tomorrow.
Legally, we can't do tomorrow, can we?
Because we have to do a notice.
At night?
Yeah.
Wednesday, we can't. We have another district obligation going on that evening.
Why don't we ask Sean to give us a date?
Thursday is probably gonna be my best bet.
All right.
How early?
Earlier is better
Earlier is a lot better.
for a lot of people.
I could do, the earliest I could do is
It's not going to be early enough.
4:30 be good.
4:45.
4:45 and keep it to an hour.
All right. Thursday?
Thursday works. I don't know if we'll be able to keep it to an hour, but okay.
You will.
We will.
I trust you guys. All right, sounds good.
Why don't we make it 4:30?
What?
And if I can get here at 4:30, I will, otherwise.
Okay, revision, 4:30.
Can we do that first? So then.
Okay, 4:30, Thursday. Thanks, guys. Moving on to item C, we have our second reading of a lot of policies.
Yeah, so this is volume 33, number 2, which was basically some legal changes, recommended changes, some rescinding of policies because they're replaced by other policies. It's the same list that was presented for the first reading.
I'll make a motion to approve all the policies as shown for second reading.
Okay, I'll second that. Do we have discussion?
I do. So part of the statutory that we were talking about in the email that we're supposed to be required in there, is that statutory, or is that somebody else saying that we should have it in there because we already have a discrimination policy?
I know, but it's statutory language that the non-discrimination statement shows up in all those policies. So that's why it's there.
Well, I just find that we're bloating all of our policies if we have a non-discriminating for every policy added and amended to it.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, so that's
Doesn't
why,
make any sense.
yeah, so why do we have to bloat our policies when we have a specific policy that deals with non-discrimination?
Because that's what the lawyers told us we needed.
I don't like the lawyers. I think they're wrong.
Well, we
Our
can,
law firm's been wrong before, so.
well, this isn't our law firm. This is different law firms. This is federal law firms.
Well, that's great, but then what's the statutory requirement of bloating our policies? That's my question back to them. They said it's gotta be in there, but why? Where does it say that legally? Because I would rather, when people look at our policies, they're not all convoluted and filled with a bunch of stuff that the policy is not directly related to.
Well, I think this goes under food service, just saying that they're making their decisions in a non-discriminatory way. That's what, when we checked with our Neola rep, he said those were federal guidelines and also coming from the DPI. And so, the requirements. So that's why it's there.
So you're correct, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense because we have a
But
policy that does speak.
it is
to
what it is.
directly.
Yeah.
DPI should remove that requirement. You're not.
Well, I don't know if it's DPI because nobody's given me the direct reference of where it came from. That
Well,
needs to be in our policy. That's all.
It's under federal law, and if things change with federal law, then maybe there'll be a change in the policy with any additional legal updates to come.
But we have a policy that meets federal law for non-discrimination. That's my question. Why would we?
We're just following through and doing what the multiple lawyers at Neola are telling us that we need to do and what we need to follow.
Okay, but they still didn't give you a statutory direction of where that's required, other than that we have to have one. That's what I'm saying. So it seemed like an easy answer for our lawyers, which, without giving us actually the citation of why it needs to be in there.
Yeah, I hear your concern, Bob, but I guess I don't want to hold up approving the policies as is, even though they may be bloated. We have a first and a second, so let's take a vote on what we want to do as a group. So all in favor of approving the policies?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, I'm hearing 2 nays. I'm an aye. Did we have a third aye? Okay, then that motion will pass. All right, next up, our list of to-do items and information requests on attachment K. Do we have some things that have changed or anything that we'd like to see added?
The only thing that I added from the last time we were here, obviously the last time we were together, we did have a closed session meeting, and I know that coming up at Heidi and I's next meeting, we're gonna review the language within our open enrollment policy to see if we can bypass bringing any of those things to the school board, and if that's if we can make that a superintendent decision, making sure that any legal thing that we'd have to follow through DPI would be served by doing that.
Okay, thanks for that update. Board, do we have anything that we'd like to see added or questions on what's here? All right, if not, this will conclude our live stream tonight, and we'll move into board development and a closed session. We'll take a short break. Thanks.